How's it going, everybody? Shaun here for another edition of Shaun Solo, and today I want to talk about Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Probably my most anticipated game of the year. Maybe ever, really. Actually, well, since Metal Gear Solid 4, probably. Actually, Metal Gear Solid 4 was the real reason I really felt it was totally necessary to have a PS3. In fact, so much so that at the time the game came out, I had a roommate. I was super poor. My roommates had a little bit more money than me, and I actually talked one of them into buying a PlayStation 3 and pre-ordering Metal Gear Solid 4. Yeah, maybe a little conniving. I don't know. They liked the game, though, so... And they were Metal Gear Solid fans. They just needed that extra push. But I've been a lifelong fan of this series. I even did a video about when the game was officially announced as Metal Gear Solid 5 back in 2012. That's how long ago people have been talking about this game. Well, a few weeks ago, Konami Studios in LA had like a press event where a bunch of games media and games press got to go and actually get some hands-on time with the game. Most of them seem to have played about 12 to 15 hours, and I've spent most of the morning just kind of listening to people talk about Metal Gear Solid 5 and being really jealous. They couldn't talk about anything story-related, so it's all basically mechanics and how the game feels, and so on and so forth, kind of the tone of the game. Consensus seems pretty positive, that's awesome. I listened to like a wide berth of watched some videos, read some articles, things like that. It does seem like most people that went to this event were Metal Gear Solid fans, so, you gotta understand there's probably gonna be a little bit of bias there. The major takeaway from this, though, seems like just on the most broad spectrum available, would be that this is kind of Peace Walker 2. It is incredibly iterative of Peace Walker. And Peace Walker being the PlayStation Plus, or not PlayStation Plus, the PSP game. That's why it made me think of PlayStation Plus. The original PlayStation Portable thing. And it was released for that. And then a few years later it was released as part of the Metal Gear Solid HD collection. This was actually when I actually played both versions of it. I played like the PSP version. I never finished it though. I was really frustrated with the controls, and I just was not having a ton of fun with it. But once they ported it over to the PlayStation 3 for the HD collection, it became much more of an enjoyable game. And the main reason why a lot of people are thinking about, like, it reminds them of Peace Walker, or why they're considering it kind of Peace Walker HD, Peace Walker 2, is that it is mechanically very similar. There's the Fulton system where you are sending things back to a base that's kind of acts in almost like an RTS, like home base way, like in the similar fashion to something like most recently XCOM, Enemy Unknown, where you can go back and you can do upgrades and things like that, and you can kind of acquire more troops just like you could in Peace Walker by sending them back to your base. And it's kind of like, and then you can allocate those troops in different areas of study, like intel or stealth or whatever, and the more guys you have, the quicker your upgrades are, I believe. At least that's kind of what it came off as. That's really cool to me. It was always an interesting system. It's a little light, a little superficial in the original Peace Walker, but it's a PSP game, and that was a really impressive game for PSP, I want to say. Just because I didn't finish it, I found just kind of the controls frustrating, and that had a lot to do with like the camera movement, because is hampered by not having that second joystick, having a dual stick system on the PSP. But other than that, it was a really impressive game for that system. I mean, what they were able to accomplish on a PSP was pretty mind blowing at the time. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about that for a little bit. They have the mother base, so you are, like I said, kind of like a home base where you're going to do a lot of research and upgrades, and you're going to be able to upgrade all sorts of different things, including like your weapons and your intel abilities and all sorts of other fun stuff. A lot of it based off of what you pick up off the world with the Fulton system. That seems cool. Like, it's a cool extension. It's a cool iteration on a concept that was kind of already there. I'm not really super surprised, actually, that it's a Peace Walker 2, honestly. That seems perfectly in line, and it seems like a smart way to go. Just considering the amount of work and the kind of the foundation that game laid out for the possibilities, right? And then if you take that system and you put it in kind of a more open world, which is a little bit more segmented, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. but it's in a more open world, so there's more opportunities to use it. There's more opportunities to do some goofy shit, which seems exciting to me. So you're really going to be able to exploit that system. You're really going to be able to like just do more. Like it's not going to be just like sequestered to like these little things like building up an army or whatever. No, there's a lot more to it now. And Mother Base itself, they said it like feels like it's so big. It feels like another kind of like area, another level, and that's kind of cool. I mean, even some of them may actually kind of express a little bit of frustration because, like, you'll be over on one side of the base and you get called over to the other, and you have to kind of think about like, well, do I want to walk there? Do I want to take a helicopter? Do I want to get a jeep that I've Fultoned back to my base? So it's kind of cool that even that kind of stuff is something that's available, and that there's a real breadth to the world. There's a real depth to every aspect of like the gameplay in terms of mechanics. And that's another thing they said, that like they said, 15, 16 hours of play, they feel like they'd only really scratched the surface of kind of exploiting gameplay style and stuff like that. Because it's going to be an open world, but the open world is a little bit more like I said, segmented in the sense of I hate a lot of people were talking about like The Witcher 3 as like, because it's the most immediate comparison to an open world game that's available right now. I think it's on a lot of people's minds. So The Witcher 3 is probably a little bit more open, I think. Obviously, I don't know. But from what I got the sense was it's a little more open. That's more like traditional open world. This kind of seems like open world in the same way that maybe like Dragon Age Inquisition was, where it's like you have your home base, and then you pick to go to a specific area. Now that specific area is fucking huge, but you're going to that specific area. There's kind of the side ops system is back from Peace Walker, where you're going to have your main missions and then you're going to have side ops. And they said that maybe that might have been a little, I don't know, a little messy in terms. It's not very fluid. Like if you're headed to somewhere to do a main mission, you're kind of stuck on that path. But they did say you were able to walk away from it with no penalty, and maybe like if you need to go research something. So I'm not really sure 100%. They weren't really clear about how that would work, but it sounds interesting, and I think that's really cool because I mean, like we all know, like Metal Gear Solid as a series is fairly linear experience. So it's kind of interesting that they're really embracing like this open world kind of like attitude towards it, and that actually has me kind of excited. Not just because I'm a fan of open world games, but it's showing that like they're about to put their stamp on something and like maybe really impress people. I think it's going to be really neat. It seems like the juxtaposition between open world traversal and like kind of doing things in the world, and then you'll go into a base and have like much more like, I guess, normal Metal Gear Solid, like a classic Metal Gear Solid, like a kind of experience where it's about like the small sneaking situations, and it's about like knocking enemies out and stuff like that, and then just kind of building on that, but also having kind of this world that you can explore. While they'll be like, well, there's not a lot of stuff in the world, but maybe that's even deceptive because you're gonna have to mine for like, not mine, but you're gonna have to find things like diamonds and stuff, because you're gonna have there's a kind of a currency system that allows you to upgrade your base and your tools and whatnot. Another cool thing that I saw, which was the buddy system. You're going to have AI companions you're going to be able to take with you on missions, and that's going to goes from everything from a horse to actual NPC characters like Quiet the sniper that you've probably seen in some of the promotional materials. Maybe even some gameplay. There's a really great gameplay video of a mission where you're with the sniper Quiet, and she's like helping you escape an area and get to the end of this level. There's even like this fucking awesome thing where you throw a grenade in the air and she takes her sniper rifle, shoots it right into a helicopter. Really neat stuff. Which is another thing people thought like, well, these are like kind of presentation demos. We don't have hands on. How scripted are these events? From what I understand, from what people have said, that pretty much anything you see, like, you can do, and it's not like bound to scripted sequences. So that's really, really cool. Just to have that kind of that fluidity of gameplay and options and stuff like that. I mean, that's the thing. Like, there's so many different ways to approach these levels. It seems like fucking crazy. It seems like even a lot of them kind of commented that it was actually like intimidating. Like, going up to a base, they were like, holy shit, like, because it doesn't direct you in any way, and you can really kind of go at it any way you want, and like, and it's like a game that like kind of promotes like planning and like thoughtfully thinking about like all like the like how you want to attack a base, and like, because when you leave Mother Base and you go to a mission, you're gonna have like a loadout screen where you actually have to pick the tools you want to take with you, and like, so things like that are really really fascinating, really really interesting. I'm excited about that myself. Like that just seems awesome, especially like this would be a step forward for the genre in general, because like no matter how many games like kind of promote this, like do it any way you want, there really a lot of times isn't. There's usually like maybe 3-4 ways. I would say like Deus Ex Human Revolution is a good example of that. It's like, well, or even Dishonored, although I think Dishonored was actually executed on that concept way better. But, there was usually like, 2 or 3 actual ways to do it. Like, it's either you go on the front door, guns a-blazing, you sneak in a side door somewhere, kind of sneak your way through office buildings, or you would find a vent, and that was also usually like 2 sneaking options, 1 action-packed option. So it'll be interesting. I'm really excited about that. Another thing that people brought up was how gameplay focused it was. Because traditionally Metal Gear Solid, like, you are stopped and asked to watch long cutscenes, sometimes bordering on a half hour to an hour long. While that kind of material is still there, because they kind of commented like, well, Kiefer Sutherland's really quiet, like during the cutscenes, and most of it's like exposition from Ocelot or Miller. You're kind of your two right hand men, right and left hands of your operation. But what you can do during the briefing side before you go onto your mission, if you so desire, you can flesh out the story a little bit more yourself by listening to briefing tapes and conversations that they're having. So they're kind of making that stuff like optional in a way for people that just kind of want to focus on these new mechanics and this new like stealth system and this new action system. Like, so if you are more of a like, I just want to play the fucking game, you're not going to be forced to like sit through things and then miss out on a bunch. I think those like briefing tapes and whatnot are made to kind of flesh out the world a little bit more, kind of the same way that it was in actually Ground Zeroes, the $30 prologue. Yeah, I know, a little ridiculous, but that's another thing I heard, that like, it is, just like Kojima had said, that like Phantom Pain is like 200 times larger than Ground Zeroes, and everybody was like, yeah, it totally is. And not only is it larger than Ground Zeroes, it makes more sense. It's like funner to play, because Ground Zeroes is pretty limited, like in scope, in terms of like how you can attack like the Omega base, how you can go about doing your mission and the side ops. Like there's a contained like kind of feeling to it, where it feels much more like a classic like video game like level, right? But not so much in the actual game, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. So that's got me excited. Just kind of just the breadth of like things, because like I think I started saying it, I didn't finish saying it, but like stealth games aren't really about options. Like even going back to things like Splinter Cell, like there's a finite amount of ways that you can do things. So what excites me about this is like being able to like sit up on a ridge and pull out my binoculars and tag as many enemies as I can, and like just watch the patrols and watch for exploits in those patrol routes. You know what I mean? Like, because these bases can sometimes be really big, so there's going to be places that organically are not as like heavily manned. The security just isn't as heavy, so you're going to be able to get in there like that way. But you're going to have to think about it. You're going to have to stop and figure it out. So I think that's really cool. And I'm saying this isn't somebody that's not a huge stealth fan either. Like, but the systems they have in place like actually get me excited about it. For like the first time ever. Usually like any type of stealth situation, I'm like just rolling like, oh my god, like I don't want to do this. This is terrible. I even felt that way like a few times during Ground Zeroes, especially when I first loaded it up. That's a game that like, while very short, and you can just kind of guns ablaze it and run and rush through the thing. I mean, you can finish that in 20 minutes if you really want to. But I was a little frustrated with Ground Zeroes just because of like how many guards there were in such a small area. But it doesn't seem like that's so much of a problem. Maybe like, farther on in the game, is a little more thoughtfully designed. Another thing they brought up was things like you're going to be able to find in the world, like going back to the whole upgrade systems, or like you're going to have to find like translators for the different areas you go, and I guess bring them back to your base so you can actually understand radio chatter and stuff. I thought that was really kind of a neat little gimmick, in terms of just like adding more stuff to the world and actually, kind of promoting this idea of actually engaging with these mechanics and engaging with the gameplay, like in more of a it's just breaking the mold for MGS games. You know, it's going to be more gameplay focused than I think that we've seen in the past. Because let's be honest, like as much as I love those games, they are probably my favorite franchise. I've talked about it, like I've written about it. I'll leave a link in the description to my blog about actually the game. Like I just wrote about like how much I love this universe, and I was kind of like getting back into like this summer. I'm gonna get back into Metal Gear Solid in a big bad way, and I've kind of already started, and I'm playing like a few games here and there, just kind of putting a little time in just to kind of reacquaint myself with the universe and the characters and everything, and watching a lot of like fan theory videos about like what this game could be about and what could be the twist, because you know there's going to be some massive twist. So, and you know, people are like, oh, why would you spoil it for yourself? Well, to me it's not like spoiling for myself. Like it's going to be more interesting to me to see if that stuff is proven true or false, right? Like Kojima is the kind of guy, like even in marketing materials, like where he hints to like tons of stuff. Guy loves his Easter eggs. He loves like kind of telling you the story without you knowing you're engaging in the story. So I'm excited just to see if that how well that stuff works out myself. The last thing, or not the last thing actually. I got one more thing to talk about before the last thing. Is the only like major criticism I heard is if when you get caught, the game maybe stops being fun. But I think that might be more indicative of the time spent and a lot of people just trying to play the game stealthily, so never really getting a good handle on maybe some of the more action mechanics. Because I've seen some gameplay videos where you can run and gun, you can blow shit up, and you can like do things. Still have to be kind of thoughtful about it, but like those possibilities are there. So I think that might be more indicative of just like a play style preference, you know? Because I'll probably try to run and gun just as much as I am stealthy. Like it'll be depend on my mood. Some days I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna stealth this one. I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna try to knock out all the dudes. I'm gonna Fulton a bunch of people. Or in other days I'm gonna be like, you know what, fuck it. I just want to get this done, and I'll just Rambo through it. You know. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is another similarity to Peace Walker. This is gonna be episodic. It's like a TV show, which is kind of interesting, honestly, for like just a big AAA game. Like, you know, I mean, a few other games have done it, most notably like Alan Wake in terms of like these big console releases. So that's kind of interesting to me because it has like opening and ending credits on every episode, I guess. So that seems kind of cool. That, you know, interesting. I don't know like how that's going to work out, honestly. It might be fun. I'm sure it's fun. And also it kind of gives you an opportunity to really close the book on an area before you move into a new area. So you're like, well, I can try to get as much content out of this, like say the opening area after the prologue, the other prologue, not the Ground Zeroes prologue. But you know, you're in Afghanistan, and then after that, I think you go to Africa. But you're going to be able to really like, okay, I'm going to focus, try to get everything I can done in Afghanistan, and then I'll go to the next episode. So that might be kind of an interesting, cool way to like progress in the game. There's tons of other stuff they talked about, you know, I mean, just in the sense of like the silly things you can do, the classic silly Metal Gear stuff, you know, the cardboard boxes are back, and you're going to be able to upgrade them at your base, and they're going to be able to have like more kind of distraction gimmicks, like I guess you can have like a pin-up bikini clad chick like hanging out of the box, and the guard will come over and check it out, and then you can pop out in slow motion and tag that motherfucker in the face with your tranquilizer gun and knock him out. Yeah, just like silly things like that. Just silly Metal Gear Solid shit, you know? Like, I like that kind of thing. That's part of why I like these games so much, is that, like, there is a silliness, there's a goofiness, there is, it knows it's a game, and I think it uses that to its advantage. I mean, I've also really liked the story as well. However convoluted and dumb it is, I'm always just down for whatever the game wants to throw at me. Like, I don't go in with any preconceived notions. I kind of just enjoy the ride and how silly and stupid it is. And, you know, and I like getting into it. I like the convoluted nature of it. I like how complicated it is. But that's also coming from a person that's been playing these games since, you know, 1997, 1998, whenever the Metal Gear Solid first came out. Well, actually, you know, I did own Metal Gear on the NES when I was a kid. I don't really have too many memories of playing it. It was probably a little too hard for me at the time. But Metal Gear Solid is for the PlayStation 1 is where I first really fell in love with the series. And really, what I kind of like dictated a lot of my tastes as a gamer. Because I demanded, like, after that, I kind of demanded, like, these epic stories, and I demanded, like, cinematic storytelling from games. I think it just upped the bar for everybody. And it seems like Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, is going to follow suit and just give us something, like, awesome and unique and original and, like, up the bar for other game developers, that make these kind of games, these big AAA games. Looks like it's going to be something special, and I am looking forward to it like you wouldn't believe. All aboard that hype train. It has left the station officially. It's cool to actually hear about some hands-on impressions. It's made me more excited than I was. I pre-ordered this game, and I am not a really big fan of pre-orders anymore. I think it's kind of a gross practice. And but I pre-ordered this, man. I tried to get the special edition on Amazon. Oh, god damn it. That thing sold out so fast. Fucking scalpers, man. eBay people. Ugh. Pissed me off. Especially because they were posting pictures of their receipts on Twitter and stuff, like saying, "Oh, I got like 10 copies." So it kind of left people like me out in the dirt because I really, really wanted to get that stupid mechanical hand thing. The statue. Looked awesome. Alright, everybody, that's going to do it for me. I'm Shaun, and I will talk to you guys next time I got something to talk about.